Hello, everybody, and welcome to Perspectives. I'm Sam Jones. We begin today with Susan Cram and Colleen Stiles, two artists whose work can be seen in Kaleidoscope. We're going to explain that in just a minute. Welcome, you two.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. This is a bit of an unusual thing in that it's small, but the representation is large. I assume you did this because March is Women's History Month.
Yes. The organizer of the show is Pam Watson, who couldn't be with us today. And she...
It's good we don't have another chair. We're a poor operation.
The last few years, she's organized the Maple Ridge art pop-ups.
Oh, okay.
And this year, she wasn't able to do that. And she was looking for a venue and trying to think of something else that she could organize and to put together for some artists. And in talking with Skip Hill, who manages the exhibition space at Wampa, she mentioned that she would love to do a women's show during Women's History Month. And that was how this show came about.
That's the way it was born. Things like this tend to grow. Do you see growth in the future of it?
I wouldn't be surprised. Pam started out with a pop-up in front of her house, and it grew during COVID from, I don't know if there were 20 artists or so there, to over 50 the last one, and that's kind of why she's not doing it there anymore. It got too big.
We have
this one we wanted to do smaller.
We have some examples of some of the things they'll find, but you call this a Kaleidoscope showcase of the female perspective. And the title almost is as long as the show itself. And we're seeing some of it now.
Yes, so Pam invited 6 other artists to the show along with her. And our work is all very different. We have a couple of abstract painters. We have Diana Whitty, who does these beautiful, kind of surreal, very realistic but surreal paintings. Susan does these beautiful mosaic fusion pieces. I'm a sculptor. So we had a kaleidoscope of styles, a kaleidoscope of perspectives, but all
Are the pieces for sale?
Yes.
Yes.
They are for sale. Some really interesting work in that.
Yes, that's Connie Siegel, who's 92. So she won't be at the show, but we're bringing some of her watercolors.
She's 92.
Yes, and she's still painting every day.
God love her.
She's just fabulous. She's so talented.
Well, one could only hope that this will grow beyond what you have right now. I'd be curious to know, first of all, is there a charge to get in to see this?
No, it is free admission. The work will be up throughout the month of March. The opening is Thursday, March, it's the 5th, right?
5th.
March 5th. We'll have live music. There will be some finger foods and people and art, and it ought to be a wonderful opening.
Is this your first one?
Mm-hmm. Our first show at Wampa.
Okay.
That almost all of us have shown it at galleries previously.
Are you going to try to make this an annual event?
I'm not sure. I think that would
See how it goes. I think we need to get through the first one first.
That would be a question for Pam. She's not here.
She's not here. Well, I'm intrigued by some of the images that we saw. In particular, was it a violin? Mm-hmm. And there was also a skull. Those were the kinds of works that took time. Any idea how long it took the artists to work on them?
Yeah, those are mine. Yeah, the violins are pretty small. In fact, the first one I made, as often as I've seen a violin or fiddle player, I never noticed how small violins are. So they don't take me as long as guitars and skulls. Maybe 40, 45 hours now that I've done some. But the skulls can take 100 hours. Large guitars, like the 12-string guitar I just did, took about 100 hours. It's a lot of detail work,
Kind of hard to talk about your own work, isn't it?
a lot of tiny beads, and tearing apart the next morning when you get up and look at something you did.
Let's nail down the date. When?
March 5th
March 5th
from 6 to 9 p.m.
from 6 to 9, and that's it.
That's the opening. So the work will be on display throughout the month.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, thank you both
Thank you.
for coming in to share with us.
Thank you.
Short break. We'll be back with more right after this. My next guest is Dr. Kenneth Hicks, who is a professor of history and political science here at Rogers State University. Welcome, buddy.
Thanks for having me back.
Good to see you again. First question, right off the top. What's the future of the Republic?
It's up to us at some level. I think you're seeing a very concerted effort on the part of Donald Trump to consolidate and centralize power in ways that are putting real stress on our Constitution. You have a largely quiescent legislature that is allowing Trump to do things like declare emergencies and launch tariff wars against our trading partners. Trump's desire to kind of remake foreign trade is having far-reaching economic impacts on the country as a whole. And it's really hard to say what's going to happen to the Republic, but certainly it's going to be different. However this little venture with Trump goes.
I know the president asked the powers that be with Mercedes to locate all of their brain power in this country. And they openly refused, said, no, we're not coming. Mm-hmm. That's the first major no we've heard. Will there be others?
I think so. One of the things that Trump has been in this term, in his first term, people were worried about kind of his authoritarian impulses. In this term, he's really being far more aggressive in terms of saying, I want the Panama Canal, I want Greenland. He has been particularly insistent about Greenland. He's claimed he wants to incorporate Canada as the 51st state. That kind of territorial aggression and acquisitiveness is, again, it's remaking, the entire post-World War II international order. We set up an international regime that was designed to make it hard for people to engage in interstate war. Trump is tearing those institutions down and creating an environment where increasingly might makes right. And that kind of jingoism, again, is going to be something we're going to have to reckon with, because even when Trump leaves the stage, and even if the next president is of a totally different bent, our trading partners are not going to trust us. Canada will not trust us the same way that they have in the past. Germany is going to be rearming. Japan is rearming because they don't trust the United States to honor the treaty obligations that we have engaged with. So, again, I think we live in really interesting times.
We do. I know yesterday that the president had some pretty harsh words for Governor Stitt, who this morning was backpedaling and was more in line with presidential thinking.
Yeah, this concerns Stitt's role as the head of the National Governors Association. It's one of the main, governmental interest groups out there. And Trump appeared to be intent on inviting Republican governors, but excluding Democratic governors. And that has always historically been a very bipartisan organization. And the vice chair of the NRA, or the NGA, Wes Moore of Maryland, basically said, well, you know, if Democratic governors are not going, then the NGA is not going. And Stitt appeared to agree with him at first. Then, you know, it's one of these typical contretemps where Trump is he's trying to bully people. And, you know, the only question is, you know, to what extent are people going to be willing to accede to his will? I don't know.
You've been an instructor for several years.
Since '99.
In your lifetime, do you ever recall seeing the kind of changes and the kind of, and I'll use the word fear, that seems to be hovering over this country?
Yeah, I don't think Washington, D.C. has ever been as afraid of one man since the time of Andrew Jackson. And the fear with Andrew Jackson was much more directly interpersonal. They were afraid he would shoot them. With Trump, you know, the thing that scares most Republicans about Trump is that they can read a poll and they know that his approval ratings in their districts and their states is higher than theirs. And that gives him a power over the Republican Party. He's effectively executed a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. And, you know, again, the question is, we've got an 80-something-year-old man now who is wielding an enormous amount of authority, engaged in a job that most people believe is incredibly strenuous. And the question is, how long is his hold over the Republican Party going to last? He's engaged in some missteps that have cost him and cost the party pretty significantly. The most recent, the video that he showed that was, most people agree, was just egregiously racist, in which he had the Obamas depicted as monkeys. You know, he's tried to, you know, voice that off as, oh, that was a staffer. But, you know, at the same time, those kinds of missteps are costing him, and the cost of living that you know, he hasn't really addressed very effectively is costing him with independent voters. You know, Republicans made significant inroads in 2024 with, you know, certain minorities, especially with Black and Latino men. I think those gains have been lost. His approval rating among Republicans is normally in the mid-90s. It's in the 80s now. That suggests a real erosion that may at some point cause some Republicans to start thinking, you know, I may need to start separating myself from him for my own self-preservation. And we should always remember that self-preservation is the prime directive of every elected politician.
It seems as though there has been to my way of thinking and my interpretation, a serious shift in voter support for the president and for his theories. And with an eye toward another 3 years, it's almost a case of, oh my Lord, what's coming next? And now he floated the possibility yesterday of a church tax where you could lose your 501c3 tax-exempt status if you spoke from the pulpit against anything that he supports. And I'm going, whoa.
Yeah, that's really hitting pretty close to home. And you know, the evangelical community is probably the least likely to get that kind of preaching from the pulpit. At the same time, they're also the most sensitive to their tax-exempt status. And so I honestly believe right now the overwhelming amount of attention right now is directed right now to the midterms. Right now, Republicans know that if they can't change the narrative between now and November, that they're going to be in a really dangerous place.
And a lot of them
I mean, their majority in the House is as narrow as it's been in the past century. and their majority in the Senate is not as impregnable as it looked, in January of 2025. And so I think Republicans are desperately trying to get Trump to identify a message that they can unite around. Meanwhile, I honestly believe that Trump is engaging in an effort to try and shift how we vote. The voting, the law that the House just passed, the SAVE Act, I believe, would make it dramatically harder for Americans to vote. It would make it much harder for elderly Americans and for minorities of color, particularly Native Americans, particularly blacks and Hispanics, to vote. And it would have the effect basically of what a strict voter ID law would have, which is it might reduce voting by up to 2% in some areas. And that's the margin of victory in most American elections. So, it's to me, it's a voter suppression effort.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to hear what your thoughts are on the fellow in New York that just came out of nowhere and won an election. And at first, it appeared he and the president would not get along. They had their meetings. They both seem to be buddies. Want to know where this is headed? We'll hear that right after this. And we're back. Dr. Hicks, I've got to ask you your thoughts on what happened in New York and what does that say to the rest of the country?
What happened in New York City is you had a guy that is an immigrant, Zoran Mamdani, who basically ran a very personality-driven campaign. He was very effective at reaching out. He wasn't a political newcomer per se. He had served on the city council. He knew how to run elections, and he was very well organized. And he was running, on the American left. I mean, he is running, and the American left has shifted solidly into where we might call social democratic territory. And a city like New York City is prime ground for that because, frankly, affordability was an issue that was driving that election. Mm-hmm. And, billionaires can only exert so much influence, especially in this day and age, where there is so much and, kind of resentment directed at people who have amassed those kinds of fortunes. And so affordability was his driving issue, and he was the most persuasive of a fairly wide field in terms of making that case. I'll work to lower prices. Now the question is going to be, is he going to be able to govern pragmatically? Bernie Sanders made his bones, if you will, as the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, as an avowed socialist. He was a very pragmatic politician. He made deals as an executive in ways that kept people happy, kept Burlington, which is, again, not a huge, city, but, he kept that city functioning well.
And when you say soup, who's the first person you think of?
I think of the soup Nazi, but no soup for you.
I love to see him when he gets wound up.
Oh yeah.
And really go in the arms play and
yep.
soup.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing position I see our country in. My parents have been gone for several years now. Gosh, I wish I could ask my dad and mom, what would you think of what's going on if this were happening in your lifetime? Because they grew up, Dad was in World War II, as most folks my age. Father fought, uncle fought in World War II. Totally different situation. I just get the feeling that there's something out there that we need to be watching, we're not.
I think this period seems a lot like the 1960s in that there is an enormous amount of change. The the normal mode of politics, where the positions are all dug in, and you know what a Democrat thinks and what a Republican thinks. We're looking at a much more broken field politically, and it's hard to say how things are going to shape out because we don't know what's going to happen economically in the long term. How is AI going to shape our economy? We know for sure it's going to take a lot of jobs. What are we going to do with all that labor that is going to be just sitting around? Are we going to put that labor to some kind of use that, to me, politics, when it works, is about maximizing the amount of human dignity you can distribute, right? If people feel, the thing that was most great that built America's middle class was that sense you can have a home, you'll have a work, you'll work hard, it will be meaningful work, and you'll come home to a house. Your kids will be able to be educated. They'll be able to do better than you. That was the dignity that made, the post-World War II era.
That's gone.
What it was. And it's not the place, we don't live in that same era. We have enormous challenges. And I frankly don't look to the scions of Silicon Valley for answers to that question. They have gadgets that they can just divert us with. They don't seem to have answers as to how do you help, an 18-year-old Oklahoman lead a dignified life.
It looks to me like, too, we're going to see fewer restrictions on drilling, where to drill for oil. We're going to see less restrictions on air pollution.
Yeah.
We've got all these things.
Until it starts killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then will it make a difference?
Well, hopefully. It depends on how well dug in our political and economic elites are to withstand this. I mean, look at what's happened with the Epstein, affair. Right now, there is one person in jail as a result of the worst pedophile, rapist in American history. This man probably raped over 1,000 underage girls and facilitated the human trafficking into this country from Russia and other countries of dozens to perhaps hundreds of underage girls to be abused by other men apparently. And we still don't know the full scope of that. And yet you have an administration that is, as Pam Bondi's testimony yesterday in front of the House Judiciary Committee demonstrates, they're not prepared to be fulsome in terms of what they know.
And I remember when she said, "I've got it sitting on my desk. I'm going to review it." You can't have something that large on your desk.
No, there were probably 7 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. And so, no, she didn't have it on her desk. And she clearly is intent on protecting Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is mentioned quite a bit in the Epstein documents. He had a close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein for a very long time. I'm not saying that there's any evidence that Donald Trump committed any crimes. I am saying he was close friends with him.
We have 30 seconds. What are the chances that we will see in the next 3 years the division that exists in this country ease a bit?
I'd put it at 0 right now. I think we have a long way to go before we're going to start healing the polarization that, this didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be resolved overnight. I remember us talking in the immediate aftermath of the January 6th Capitol riots, and I thought, well, maybe this will be the event that causes people to step back from the abyss and to say, we have to get back to a politics of accommodation. No, that there are people out there, too many people out there, who believe that they can impose their will on the world. And that's not going anywhere.
We're out of time, and I'm so sorry. Thank you for taking time to visit with us, and let's cross our fingers.
Yep.
All right, my friend. That's all the time we have for this episode. Join us again next time, won't you?